That work? Everything work? No feedback?
No feedback. Do you hear feedback from me?
Uh-uh.
Well, shit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Get Reelisms podcast. I am Adam Chase Rennie.
And I am Christine Chet.
Holy smokes, you guys. I know it's been a minute. I am so sorry.
Has it been 2 weeks? 2 weeks,
It's been
right?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And there's no excuse other than a set that was in the streamlined version of it was doomed to fail from the very beginning. And it was just a flurry of everything happening all at once. And there was just absolutely no way for me to just have that little bit of reserve on Sunday or Saturday when we record this to, just talk about it on this podcast. And I really wanted to, but I was like,
You're
exhausted. Yeah. My body was just on fire. And I was also a van driver too. So it was just me doing this like for 8 hours a day, white knuckling through the streets of Dallas. That's another story.
No.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. And Christine, you got some stuff you want to talk about. You want to go ahead and get.
We both got stuff. Okay, so let's give context.
Mine's more
first.
complainy though. We should,
We'll give context.
Well, I don't know about complaining. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just got off of a 15-day shoot
in Los Angeles.
Well, it was close to Los Angeles. It was about an hour and a half from Los Angeles. We actually were filming in Fraser Park, which if you talk to anybody who lives in Los Angeles, most people don't even know where that is. So it's a mountain town.
So you talked about it last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's where it was, and I just drove back with my second AD, Carly Shield. We just drove back from LA, and I am in Austin, Texas now. That's where I am at the moment. So my internet should be great. So that's where I'm at. And what's your context?
I mean, well, I just wanted to ask you, how was that trip all the way? Did you drive to Los Angeles as well?
We drove to and from.
Wow.
Yes.
So that trip must have been awesome going to and from.
You know what? A lot of people were like, oh my God, we can't believe you drove all the way. I don't see why more people don't do it. Obviously, the time it takes is a lot more. It is. But the thing is, like, we made it a mini vacation, like a mini road trip. And I had a lot of fun just driving and seeing stuff. So I would have liked to have drawn out the last half of our thing and seen more stuff towards the end. But I think Carly needed time to, I have noticed that lots of people need time to like decompress where I don't. And so she was like, I just need time to like sit by myself at home. And meanwhile, I'm like, let's go explore things. Let's do stuff, blah, blah, blah. That was probably a lot to handle. So we cut our trip a lot shorter than originally planned because we are going to be on another trip for the next set in a week. And she just wanted some time to herself. So I don't follow for that. I totally get it. So we kind of rushed it for the last half. We did our trip in basically 2 days instead of 3 or whatever we did the first time. So we drove from, our first stop from LA was Santa Fe, which I drove the whole way.
Yeah.
So it was like 13 or 14 hours. And then the second half was from the Santa Fe back to Austin. She drove for like the first 8 hours, and then I drove the last part of it. So yeah, and now I'm in Austin, Texas. Yeah, for very brief though. I was
gonna say probably for a minute, and then you're back to Louisiana, which is, by the way, I mean,
no, I'm not going to Louisiana actually. So
okay.
I leave on Wednesday to go to Colorado to visit my nephew and my parents. And then for a few days. Then I leave from there on September 13th and fly to Virginia. So I'll be in Virginia for another shoot for another 15 days. So another month in Virginia to AD another feature. So,
holy shit.
Yeah. But get this, I
Uh-huh.
just accepted a gig in Austin, Texas immediately after that. So the longest shoot ever that I will be on, and that will be 30 days in Austin, Texas. So I will be in Austin all the way till December, starting the end of October.
Wow. Can you
Yeah.
I mean you can't talk about this set, I assume, but
Not yet. I mean, it's
you,
going to be a feature film, a rom-com, 30 days, a tier one
wow.
film. I get to AD it. I'm excited about it.
That is
Female,
exciting.
yeah, female director, female top of the line, female empowerment type story line, which is why I took it. Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. So that's in a nutshell where my life is at the moment, and still simultaneously working on Erzulie, getting that ready for the deadline tomorrow. If all you guys out there who are doing Sundance regular deadline is tomorrow, September 6th. And yeah, what was your thing in Dallas?
What's that?
You said Dallas?
Yeah, so okay. I mean, I honestly it kind of like it is not me. Okay. Let me just start from the beginning.
Okay.
All right.
Uh-oh.
So this set it was a learning experience, Christine.
Yes. Okay. Everything is
You take every you told me this all the way back in writer's block.
Yes.
This is a learning experience.
Everything is a learning experience. Yes.
Everything's a learning experience. This set was absolutely no different. It was 100% a learning experience. It tested my patience. It tested the boundaries of my sanity before I just completely snap when it comes to communication. It's absolutely horrific. So getting into the set, I was informed that this was going to be a very hang on, let's pause for a second. Kirk 101 on Instagram says, "What's your advice on balancing so much and still making sure the quality of your work is great?" Christine, that's a Christine question.
I mean, you really, really have to be surrounded by people who support you. I can't stress that enough. Anytime I return back to Austin or Shreveport or something, there's a select people that I go to just be loosey-goosey around. And that's so important because I think when you're working this much, you always have to be what we call quote unquote on. You're putting on a show,
right,
per se. You have to be the most supportive, most outgoing, most energetic, most, got your shit together leader. And it's nice to like go back to a place where you can just be like, all right, like I'm gonna just be lazy and like sit in the pool with you and like talk shit and like be myself and not have to be on. I think that's really, really important. You have to have moments like that with people that you care about who are like, you know what, I don't give a shit if your film gets into Sundance or doesn't get into Sundance or like anything. Like we just like to be around you. And I have people like that in all the cities that I'm at. So you need that for sure, days of that. And then I think another thing is people that, again, it's all about people. So I have also a group of people that I'm not afraid to show my work to. And that, I don't think that's not a phrase. I still have a lot of trepidation when I show work to anybody, but you have to be willing to share your work with people that you trust, who will give you honest feedback. And I'm not talking about, hey, your film is so awesome, I love it. It has to be like, dude, this scene is not working, or like your film just needs so much more things.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, constructive criticism. You have to have that because you will get into spaces where everything looks the same. Like nothing is you, because you've watched or read or whatever a million different times for that script or that edit, and you'd have zero perspective anymore. And you have to have these people look at it and tell you what's working, what's not. And that helps you with the quality of the film. And you need to be comfortable enough to be able to not take what they say personally, because it is a lot of notes. and there is a such thing as being noted to death, like, oh, to a point where you're like, oh, my whole existence is shit, like, because you're going to get so many notes because these people are looking for problems to make it better,
Right.
to fix, to make it better. And so I think having a mix of that is what will make sure that your quality is still great, is having people outside of your circle bring you back to reality and also give you a way to look at your work objectively. So I think that's the long-winded answer. And I'm sure, Adam, you are experiencing that with your script, correct?
Yeah, I do. But here's the thing with my script. It feels like I'm always working. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
always.
it always feels like it's really, that's why I say like this is more of a you answer, because like, yeah, the only thing I can relate is like how much work I'm putting into my script. Like my notes app on my iPhone, I'm using my iPhone. I'm literally looking for my phone. Like, where's my phone? And I'm using it. On my notes app, it's like there's just like 7,000 scrolls of just ideas for this script I'm writing. And every single one of those notes idea, I always set a reminder for myself, like at the end of the day, or at least the next day. Hey, Kelly. Oh my gosh. Hi. It's been a minute.
I'm hanging out with Kelly tomorrow, which is gonna be great. Yeah, Kelly is
Wow.
one of the founders of Get Realisms. Oh, Adam, you should come too if you are.
I wish, and I'm working. Dang it.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so proud of you. I
Yeah,
love
but
hearing
it's
that.
here at home,
Yeah.
not on set. That's the
Oh.
problem. It's not,
Is
and
that,
I'm
are you
still in the
copywriting?
yeah, I'm still plugging away through that. But tomorrow's going to be a heavy day because today I'm taking the day off. But tomorrow on Labor Day, I'm going to be working.
Yeah.
So hi, Kelly. And yeah, there was going to be something I was going to point out. Oh, but like to piggyback off the thing you said earlier, where you kind of just want to sit alone and decompress.
Yeah.
That's sort of like a very important thing, especially like if you need a creative like release in a way. It's so much more beneficial to just reserve like one day, maybe 2 days if you need it. Sometimes people can't handle more than one day, like of just like not doing anything. But at least just having one day, you have 15 hours to just do exactly whatever you want to do. So like if you just want to get back to work, you can, or if you just want to play video games, like in my case, yes, like you just jump in, or if you have a great book you just want to read, and you just want to veg out on the couch all day and just read that book, that's also rad as well. It just, you kind of have to like
know yourself and what you need.
Yeah, know yourself, but also know when to just like take yourself away for a minute in your own world, just so you can kind of keep your creative mind in check in a way, I guess. Like what inspires you.
When do you know you need to step away? I know when I do. So
it's usually when I'm working and I'm expecting a different result, but doing the same exact thing.
Sure. I would say I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Mine's also when like I look at the same thing and everything looks like shit. Like, and I hate everything that I'm doing. That's also when I notice that I'll step away. That happens a lot too.
And I realized too, talking about this in therapy, I realized too that I'm burnt out. I didn't know I was burnt out. I had no clue. After the set, it was absolutely brutal. And the way I described it, especially to her, she was like, oh yeah, you're just burnt out. Like, because the other day I was writing and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, it was just one of those things where I can't get enough of it. Okay, he responded, Kirk 101, thank you for that. Makes sense since I last caught y'all on IG Live. I was wondering new hats on set.
Yeah.
I was working new hats on set. Oh, fantastic, man. Yeah, it's hard. But when you can get that balance, it absolutely pays off.
Yeah.
But
and balance is a weird word because
yeah,
I don't feel like there is necessarily a true balance. I think balance just means where you won't lose your mind. That's when you're balanced.
and that's why I almost lost my mind the other day. Like the other day when I was writing, I'm like, I don't know what's happening with me. Like I was on a roll before I did this stupid set. It's not stupid. It's a great set. But after doing this set, I was like, this just doesn't make any logical sense to me. And she was like, no, you're burnt out. You've been averaging about what, 3 to 5 hours of sleep a night. And you expect like to have all these results when you haven't even given yourself a time to just be in your own world when you were just already in work mode the entire time, you know? And it's really hard to just remove yourself from that when all you're doing is just going into work mode, and it's hard to get out of that. So when I got back here, I was like, I'm going to go straight into my script, and it is what it is. Then it doesn't work that way. Like I'm just staring at a wall, literally like this, staring at my computer for like 3.5 hours, wondering why can't I write anything? Why am I reading my script and it feels like I wrote in a different language?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense to me, you know? And it's just I'm burnt. I'm really tired. I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and it's okay to be that way. That's like I think that's the biggest thing you have to learn too as a creator, is that like it's okay to be tired and to say, hey, I just can't, I just need a break. It's okay to be that way. And it's hard to come to that, especially if you are a results driven person, which I am highly that way. I feel my go-to emotion is I feel bad when I need to take a break. And that you can't be that way. You know, you have to realize, and it's okay to have that feeling, but to realize, hey, I have this feeling that I feel like a piece of shit because I need time off, but that's just a feeling. But I know in reality, I need that to be able to continue to be productive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
giving yourself a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, totally. So, I totally get it.
But you know, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, but balance is a weird word in this industry because I really don't think there is balance. Like,
and it's so hard to achieve. It's very hard. But the people in this industry who do, God bless you. Hats off. Literally hats off to you, because that is truly a superpower that I have yet to conquer. Even though I feel like I am so much better than I was 3 years ago, you know, after meeting Christine and being, you know, fucking skyrocketed into into the slingshotted into this industry. It felt like to me, it paid off tenfold with everything that I've learned, especially thus far, because this set that I worked on literally proved the opposite of that.
Okay.
It literally, so when I first approached this, it was just going to be through the interviewing process, it's just going to be a laid back set. It's probably going to be half a day, 10 hours, maybe. And when I heard that, I was like, are you kidding me? Really? Like, that's pretty wild. All right.
Yeah.
So then cut to, we get to this set, and a mutual friend of ours gave me the set. I don't want to mention this person by name because he's a buddy of ours.
Okay.
And it's just like, I don't want to out it, because this is okay. Let me also say this. This wasn't a terrible set. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, you know, the worst set I've ever been on. There was plenty of sets that were absolutely worse, but this set was by far the biggest learning experience that I've had, because this was a set that I've never really worked on before. Because going into this set, there's only a line producer, on-set producer, director, no ADs, none. No ADs, like at all.
Okay.
G&E, 2 people, gaffer in a that's the other thing too. It was gaffer and swing, even though they're doing key grip. It just, it felt like
everything.
They did everything.
They did everything.
And same with my position. I was a key set PA and also a van driver. So my job was to, simple as picking up people from, base camp, which was the hotel, and then going to set, and then back again. And that's what I did every day, along with being a key set PA.
Okay.
So I thought maybe this could be easy. It feels definitely strange that I'm a key set PA. I don't even know how many PAs there really are. Yeah. Turns out there's only one other PA. And also Spanish is probably the most vital thing on this set.
Oh, really?
A language that I do not speak at all. I look like I speak Spanish to some people, in their defense. So they just begin speaking Spanish to me. And I'm wearing an N95 mask. It's a reverse duckbill mask. I mean, you guys know what they look like.
Yes.
And
it is
they just start speaking Spanish to me. So I'm just like, I'm sorry. I don't know, I can't. All those years in French class, just like, it was just like, it came back to haunt me when I should have just taken Spanish. I was there in freshman orientation. I didn't. Then I still kick myself in the pants for this. But in the interviewing process, they said it's not mandatory. It's not at all necessary whatsoever. I'm like, oh, perfect. Awesome. Then I get to the set. 60% of the crew speak Spanish.
Okay.
The other 40% of the crew are all from Texas. They're all from here.
Okay.
So from Dallas to San Antonio and stuff. And even them, they're just like, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on, because every single day it felt like there's one part of the crew that knows exactly what's happening. And then there's our part of the crew, which is the local crew, Texas crew, who have absolutely no idea what's happening, like zero clue. And my job was to basically, like, what I learned from the first day is get as much information as I possibly can from the 2 producers that are on set.
Yeah, that know
English, and relay that information to everybody, including G&E. You
were an AD then.
So that is also one of the lessons. Understand that what you are doing sometimes just isn't enough, and you need help. And I for certainly needed help, but when it came to the Texas local crew, and this sounds like I'm bashing the producer. I'm not, because this was a set that was truly something.
Was it organized? It's just, do you think that
not at all
downfall? Okay.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was like, what was the downfall of the set? Is it the fact that you guys had the language barrier? Is that purely it? Or
it was that, but it was also the unorganization and the miscommunication of everything. So when I was also working on that set, I couldn't trust just one piece of information coming from one source. I had to go to another producer with another piece of information that are 2 conflicting things that I can't run with.
Information.
They're conflicting information. I can't do anything with this. So I then go to the local Texas crew, and I sound like an idiot when I'm just like, hey, so this is what's happening, but she's saying this is going to happen. And then Jeannie looks at me, and then DIT looks at me, and then everyone else looks at me in the Texas crew, and they're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. So every day it's just me battling, like it's me playing you remember that game? Was it called 20 questions or 30 questions?
20
It's like,
questions.
yeah, 20 questions. It's like to get to the point of one thing, I have to ask 20 questions. So like
Gotcha.
in order for me to understand what we're going to order for lunch, we don't know if we're going to be in the second location or the first location. So then I have to then ask two different people like, hey, are we going to be here until noon or one? One says yes. That means we're going to be having lunch here.
Right, but the other one says no.
But the other one says, no, we already ordered lunch in the second location. And it's like, you already ordered it? What do you mean you ordered it? It's like, oh, we ordered it last night.
Oh God. Dude, this sounds like my life every day as an AD.
And I'm just like, are you out of your mind? Like that was every day. And it wasn't just that. It was something completely different. And you're right. There was no first AD. So I had to be the one.
You were the first AD. It's what it sounds like to me is you were a makeshift first AD.
And a shot job at best. You know what I mean? Like it was a terrible job, really. Even everybody else on set was like, Adam. And I'm like, guys, I'm trying my best here. These people are killing me. They are literally killing me. And I'm getting there so early too, by the way. Like,
yeah.
I'm getting there like 20 minutes.
How early?
I'm getting, so I have to get to the hotel, and my call time is usually an hour before regular crew call time.
Yep.
For production. That's just, that's a normal thing. That's always a normal.
Yep.
But I show up just 20 minutes before that because my anxiety wakes me up before my alarm clock. So I get up and I get to the base camp, and I'm there like just 20 minutes earlier, and I just, get done. So we have to do personal releases as well, because this is a documentary. This is a show documentary. So I have to get releases. And there was one day we were at a place, a recreational place that had a lot of people that we just decided to just put in front of camera. Like the DP and the first AC just out of nowhere was just like, hey, we're just going to go ahead and start rolling on everything. And nothing against them. They're just doing their job. They're hired to do that. But they didn't circumvent that information through the producers, then back to me, to my responsibility to get everyone else's releases. So I'm trying to get 5 releases while I'm now hearing just random information that we're going to need 30 releases. I actually make that 50 releases. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't compute. I'm about to blue screen here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I'm literally running around trying to get everyone's releases, and I'm throwing release. I'm like throwing my clipboard.
You get a release, you get a release.
Go, you. And I sound stupid because I am the only one who speaks English in the production. Like even my boss can speak a little bit of Spanish and understand a little bit of it. I'm literally the only one who can't understand a word of it. And I'm from Oakland, California, which is mind-boggling to a lot of people. And it's mind-boggling to me. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. I'm trying to just throw these releases out to people, and they're looking at me like, who are you? What is this? What are you throwing at me? And then I have to grab exactly Kirk 101. Everyone gets a release. Literally everyone.
Oprah releases.
Because I have to then be next to the DP in the first AC every time they roll.
Yeah.
So
dude,
you
were an AD. That's what you were doing. Like, I can't tell. You literally are the AD or the AD on the set. That's why you had a terrible life. That's why it was so awful.
But also the key set PA and the other PA was also too busy trying to gas up all the other vehicles and make grocery runs and food runs.
He was actually doing the AD, the PA stuff. You became the AD.
Somehow.
Well, welcome to my life, Adam.
Yeah.
Every single day.
It's a nightmare, Christine. It's a nightmare.
I
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not terrible. It's
It's
just
hard. It's a
it
lot
was
all at once, all the time,
it was not the
24/7.
day. And by the way, remember when I said it was going to be an 8 to 10 hour day? That's what
Yeah,
they
what
told me.
happened?
Oh,
Yeah.
it was like 14, 15-hour day. Like I was there from dusk till dawn.
Yeah.
It was just like or dawn till dusk. I mean, it was just like we were always working. It was just an always like the amount of overtime and the amount of anytime will not equate
To how
to
much work you were putting in.
how much work I was putting in, the amount of bandwidth that I was
Yeah.
just putting in, the amount of just like pure and sheer focus for a stoner like me. That is incredible. That is
Yeah.
insane. And I had like Bobby Fischer laser focus. Like I was just on and ready to go.
Yeah.
And every single day, it was just like I had to make sure that I relay any and all information and also follow up with any other information that I know I'm going to ask for throughout the day. And the producers kind of already read my rhythm and was just like, okay, here's everything. Here's da na 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 na. And then I'm just like, couldn't you just do this in the beginning of the day? It doesn't matter.
I love
It doesn't matter.
I
It doesn't
find this
matter.
conversation very hilarious because you're
You
literally
should.
literally having the shock of dealing with being in first AD. That's like you're having a rude awakening of what it's like to be a first AD without having asked for that job.
I didn't ask for it. Yeah. But I was willing to do it in order to just get through the day,
I
Christine.
get it. Yes.
It was just,
yes.
it was me and my consciousness basically telling me like, hey, dude, I want to get through this day. And I kind of just want to get through the set and I want to get paid as well. So
the only way to do this is
let's just 180 this.
Yes.
And roll our sleeves and go get into it. Because a part of me was just like, you know what, man, you're just a van driver. You're just a van driver and you're also just a key set PA. What more could you possibly do? And
a lot, apparently.
I can
basically be an AD.
I can do a lot more, but also like nobody asked for it either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people were just like, oh, well, I guess the local Texas crew is just going to have to deal with the madness that we're going to have to deal with in our communication.
Right.
And it kind of is what it is. So it's kind of like a free for all for you guys. So you kind of have to figure this out.
Well, I get it. It's like,
and then so I was like, well, fuck that. I don't want them to deal with that because that's not fair to them. They're already there trying to communicate to the cinematographer and the deep or and the first AC. And there's a language barrier there too. It's just like we all have to be this together.
Yeah.
And it's no one is trying to stitch it all together.
Yeah, if you're seeing it, if you don't step in, then nobody will get through the day, basically. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll be the bigger person so that we can all get out of this alive because I want to leave at some point.
Exactly.
So,
and it sounds like I'm trying to be a knight in shining armor. It's not that. I want to get to bed.
Yeah, I get it.
I just want to get to bed. I don't even want food. I love food and I want food so bad, especially after wrap on a set. You have no idea how much you want food.
Hungry.
You get so hungry, but
yes, you want food even when you don't need it.
When you don't need it. But this set, it drove me to the ground where I was like, I don't even want to eat. I just don't want to eat. And I'm just going to survive off of coffee and American Spirit cigarettes.
I get it.
It's terrible.
That's not good.
Blah.
Before I'm going to jump in before we forget because it's coming in. Ariel
I'm
had
all
a
done.
question.
Go ahead.
Ariel said, tell us when you felt the best in your realm. This is a both of us question. So
okay.
Yes. Ariel said, tell us when you felt the best in your realm. So I'm going to, I know what mine is, so I'll say it real quick. I think the best time I feel is when I've scheduled something perfectly, like literally perfectly. It makes me feel so great when like I scheduled and the talent comes in at this time and it was the perfect timing and there was no downtime of any sort and like everything just falls right into place. That's when I feel like I am God, basically. Like when everything works exactly how I had seen it in my head. That's when I feel I'm at the best in my realm. So how about you, Adam?
I feel like, yeah, I feel that as well. Like, but there's something so satisfying when you tick off that last check mark, that last like task of the day, and
Yeah.
you just have. That's when I'm in my absolute best realm, is like the day off. I'm all about.
Okay.
I'm Addy days off. I'm all about them days off. I love a good day off. And
Okay.
and that's my best realm. But creatively,
So your best realm is when you're not in the realm.
when I'm just like, when I'm like, if there's like a lazy river realm,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I'm just
Mhm.
like floating, just
Yeah.
hanging out and doing my own thing. If there's a way I could play video games while I'm doing that,
Uh-huh.
perfect. And I usually make it happen sometimes. But when I am creatively,
Yes.
my realm is making sure that everything else in the day, I set aside that time just to write. So when it's like
Got it.
4:00,
Yeah.
it's writing time, baby.
When you're on
That's
the
it.
flow, when you're flowing, that's creatively. I agree. I agree with that as well. When I'm
And
creatively in a flow.
and I'm a night owl as well. So sometimes when I start at 4, I don't go to bed till like maybe 3,
Mhm.
sometimes 2, but
Yeah.
it's been averaging. Before this set, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I look at my watch and I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta go to bed. But that's when I'm at my most absolute creative flow. I just have headphones on. I have my whiteboard, as you can see, still says Adam needs a background. Still a reminder for me that I still need a background. Everyone on Instagram, I think that's mirrored. I don't know if you can read that, but everyone on Facebook, yeah, you can see that I need a background, and it's been weeks, but I still write my ideas on this whiteboard. And at the end of the day, I wipe it. I take a picture first, and then I wipe it all off, and then I go the next day, fresh, brand new, crazy ass ideas that I want to do, and I'm just stuck in this office for hours on end. Kind of turns into a party because I can change these colors too. And it just like, I just turn off that light and it just becomes like a crazy, yeah, dude.
You're in your writing party.
It's a writing party and it's chill as fuck. So,
I have some news to reveal real quick.
Please. No,
okay.
I'm done.
So I don't know when this date will be, but I don't know if you know, but I'm allowed to speak about it now. Before it was NDA and I didn't know what I could talk about. So the set that I was on, the director is Sung Kang, who plays Han in Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift and all that stuff. He says he will totally get on our podcast. Yes. Yeah.
No way, really?
Yeah. So
holy shit.
Yeah, because I kind of want to, because this was his first film that he directed. So I kind of want to pick his brain as to like what his learning experiences are from it. And
absolutely.
Also just, yeah, he's trying to wrap his brain around post-production right now. And he said right after that, he says he'll get onto it. But yeah, Song Kang. So for those who
That's
don't
insane.
know, I didn't know who it was when I first started the film, like zero.
And I saw your Instagram post when you post on your stories. I was like, is that Sung Kang?
Yeah, I had no clue. Dude, I had no clue. And I asked him.
Is that Han? No, come on.
Yeah, no,
that's ridiculous.
But first day I go, what do you do?
What do you do?
He was like, he played along with it. He's like, oh, sometimes I act. I'm like, that's cool. I had no clue. And Carly went back into, she's like, she likes to creep and like see what everybody's background is and stuff like that. And she was like, Christine, OMG. And she shows me like, he's got this whole reel on IMDb of him from like, because he's like the biggest, whatever Asian star at that moment and stuff time or whatever. And I'm like, oh, foot and mouth. Like I totally just asked him what he did for a living. I asked him when we wrapped about that day, he laughed really hard. He's like, yeah, I knew you'd figure it out at some point, but I wanted to play it out and see like,
what a gentleman. He did that the right way.
Is what I learned a
He
lot
does
from
seem like a
him.
cool guy, Kirk.
He is
one-on-one.
a very, very cool guy. He is so nice. And I think what I learned the most from him, he is a new director, and you can tell. But the biggest thing I learned from him is the ability to inspire. And what he would do is he at the start of every day, during our safety meetings, he would basically run through the day before and how great it was and the positives of everything and thank everybody for being there and their hard work and everything. Every single day he would do this. And being on the receiving end of it, I didn't realize how important that was and how much that could reset you as a team, because you're beaten down on a set, like you're working real hard, real late hours and stuff like that, and you tempers flare and you say things you don't mean to because out of stress and everything, and like just that little like, hey, you're doing a great job, was so important. And it made me realize like, hey, when I'm on my own sets, I need to do that more, because I come from a background, traditional, immigrant family and stuff like that, where like saying you did a good job or any kind of positive feedback was never part of our culture. It was more like, hey, you can improve on these things and you need to do this better, and then this sucked and then you suck and all this stuff. This is like, that's how I grew up. So I go through assuming people know that I really respect and appreciate the work that they're doing, right? But maybe they do, but there's nothing compared to hearing that from somebody, just the simple words of, hey, thank you, you're awesome, you're doing such a great job, like, is like, oh, like you just feel, it's like everything that could have been wrong the other day, you just forget about, or you're like, oh, it's not as bad. You just erase. It's like that, just simply that gratefulness and appreciation. I just saw a huge difference with the crew. Like every time we did
Yeah.
that.
It's
Yeah.
almost
And so
like a
that's,
positive reassurance.
it
Or
is. Yeah.
if
Like,
that's a
hey,
word,
no,
reassurance.
positive reinforcement. There you
Reinforcement.
go.
Sorry.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and it is, it's like, it puts everybody on the same page of like, hey, we're doing a great job, we're making movies, we're having a good time. It resets everybody. And I think if you're in this field, we're all super anxious, because we all, especially if you're good at your job, you care so much about doing a great job that you second guess yourself at every single minute of whether or not you're doing a good job or not. And so a
Wow.
lot of the
Yeah.
stress and anxiety is self created.
Mhm.
So hearing an outside voice tell you, hold up, you are doing a great job, is like so comforting, you know?
Because all
And
the stress and the worry of the
yes,
previous day, it's sort of just kind of like washes
goes
away.
away.
It's like,
Yes.
oh, you actually
Yeah.
appreciated the work and the time that I put in.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm
And
not
that's
crazy.
something
Yeah.
I wish, but now I know, I wish I did more of on Erzulie. I thought I did, I tried to do that, but no excuse. I was so in my head and so overwhelmed every single day that I don't know if I did that enough. And so that's something that I hope to do more in the future, like on my sets, like let people know, hey, don't stress out. We're just making a movie. I appreciate everything that you've done. I wish I told my crew and cast that more, and I'm saying this, I retrospectively, that like every single day, that's what I felt. Like, thank you. I feel so lucky and to be in the position I'm in, even if I didn't vocalize that enough.
Yeah,
So
that's just the thing of it. It's just like if you feel like you haven't vocalized it enough, you vocalized it, period. You still are thankful of the cast and the crew. I mean, you say it yourself even now, so whether or not you think you did it enough, it's been said. And I've also taken your thank you, because you've even like taken time off of your day off, like on the shoot, to just say, hey, you're doing a great job. I know this is crazy, but you're doing a fantastic job. And you did that, like, just taking a day out of your time. And I was still asleep too. And
I was like, hey,
I was
I
just,
know
and you were like, hey, are you good? Are you asleep? I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Good. What's up? I thought something happened. Like, I thought I was late. That's what I thought. I thought you were coming in like you were about to like scream at my shit. You were just like, you were going to lose your shit on me. And then you come in and you're just like, no, I just want to thank you and just say how much I appreciate you. And you've taken that time out of your day to just say that to me, Christine. And that's all I can ask for, is to just know that, like, hey, I'm on the right track. Whether or not I think that, like, I'm just beating myself up because I'm not doing enough. And that's always been the case for almost every set, that I'm just not doing enough. Except for this last one.
I'm doing way too
much.
much.
I learned my lesson to just appreciate what I've got. You know what I mean? Like, just appreciate the things that, like, being an art assistant, like, you learn to just miss that when you go back to being a PA, and then when I do PA stuff, then I'm just constantly reminded that, like, oh no, I'm still doing this thing. And it reassures me that, like, no, man, you're in the right track. I mean, there's people way better at being a PA than I am. That's just a matter of fact. There's no way I can be the best PA. I can try to be the best person I can possibly be, but in terms of being a PA, that's not an Adam game. That's a game that I respect very much so, but also, just like first AD, I'm not good at it, Christine. I'm not good at it at all.
It's hard.
I've done it.
You were doing it.
It's not easy. It was like my day began and it crash landed into anxiety.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? It was just like, just that fear and that realization of just like, oh, I was supposed to text so-and-so.
Yeah.
So-and-so didn't receive this,
I think a metaphor is the moments you step on, you're on a roller coaster and it doesn't stop at all until it crashes. Like that's it. Like you're just on it as like adrenaline 24/7, people talking to you all the time, you're processing it the entire time, like all the way till the end. Like it doesn't, and even that, if you're a true AD, it doesn't even stop when it ends. Like it's still, people are still like messaging you and asking questions and all that
exactly
stuff. It's
because
nuts.
I just took that initiative, and a lot of these people really did not like that shit at all, because there was times where, I don't know, like maybe I did step on some people's toes, but it was just one of those things where we were not getting through our day, and we had no clue, especially like when we were just like starting off. Okay, hang on. Let's take a pause. For an Instagram question. Kirk 101 says, curious question. I've never been a PA on set, but feel I should experience it. Is it better I become a PA to know the ins and outs on a set from that level, or is it okay not to? You can absolutely be a PA on that level. Are you kidding? Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, because I started off as a PA. Christine got me on we joked about it in the very beginning of the podcast, that like feels like we come full circle with writer's block, but truly, like, starting off as a PA, if you don't know which department you really want to lean into, being a PA is the absolute best way to just like understand. It's almost like the sorting hat position of where you want to go in your respective department, where you want to go to. Sometimes you don't, though. And there's nothing wrong with just working in production too. There's plenty of people who prefer working in production.
I guess there is no right or wrong. It's like,
there's no right or wrong.
I can give you the pros and cons to both. So
please, you're the expert.
The biggest thing is being a PA humbles you. I think people who didn't start off being a PA don't realize how hard it is and how important being a PA is and how important PAs are to a set. And I have a problem with that. The people that I have the biggest issues that I work with are the people who haven't done those jobs. And the reason is because they don't appreciate what those jobs entail, and they don't appreciate the people who are in those positions. Now, can you start off not as a PA and appreciate those positions? Sure. It's just easier if you have that perspective, if you've been in those shoes to truly understand that. So there is no right or wrong whether you have to start off as a PA or have any PA experience and that you've only been a director or a producer. I think the biggest thing is understanding it and having an appreciation for the other jobs that you may or may not have done before. And it certainly is a lot easier to have that perspective when you have done that job before. And so many people will tell me that I'm a good AD because I literally have done every single job on a set. So I know what the G&E people are dealing with when they have to wrap out late at night and they're pulling really, really heavy ass equipment and cables and stuff, because I have done that and I am okay to go and
Same.
help them with that because I know
Yeah.
how sucky that is. I also know, having been on the other side of the camera, how hard it is to do something over and over and over and over and over again in the heat or in the cold and not dressed for that weather and stuff like that, and having that perspective. And when you have that perspective, what you have is empathy, and empathy goes a long way when it helps to understand what other people need to succeed at their job. And so the long answer is that I do think people who have PA'd have more empathy and understanding of how a set is run, and therefore can run that set more effectively. Do you have to start as a PA? No, definitely not. I've PA'd before, but I started off same thing. I started off as a director and a producer first. I put myself in those positions as a PA, one, strategically, because when you start to want to get onto bigger sets, sometimes that's the only way to get on those sets, right? Is to start on the bottom and work your way up. So some of these bigger sets, I wanted to have that experience and knew I couldn't get on otherwise unless I PA'd, and I decided to do that, and I'm glad I did that. But I think if I hadn't had that experience, I probably would not be as empathetic to people in that position, as much. So that's the long and short, whatever. That's the long answer, is that yes, you don't have to start as a PA, but it sure gives you a lot of perspective, and perspective is power. And perspective will help you become a better director and a better producer, a better whatever position you want to be. So like I know art people who like really appreciate the grips that help the art people, because that person, maybe that grip was an art person, or like I can just say the worst directors I've been with, or the producers, are the ones who just expect a lot but don't understand the work it takes to do that, or like they think, oh, the PA is the lowest, position, therefore like I should treat them like shit, but like they don't understand that PAs are the worker bees to a set, and they are the ones that keep the set running. You should be like, the PAs have some of the hardest jobs in my opinion. So with that empathy, or we've worked with directors or producers who are like, oh, that prop, like, can I have it now? And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, this prop takes like a week to make, and if you haven't had that perspective, you literally could not know. Just like I have no clue what my dad does, because I've never experienced that or blah. So I had zero empathy. But what if he were to tell me everything that happens on his job, I would be like, I don't know, like I have no context. It's like, whatever. So it's the same thing. Like, unless you've truly experienced that, I think it's harder to have empathy. So that's what separates, I think, the good directors and the good producers from the bad ones, at least from an AD's perspective. Like, as an AD, you have to work very closely with the director and the producer, and like the best directors are the ones that have that perspective. So I think why Sung was so good, not necessarily because he's been in those positions or worked as a PA, I don't know whether he has or not, but he works as an actor. And so he knows at least to a certain extent, like the people who kept him happy or, allowed him to do his job at the best that he can do, so he's appreciative of those people and he treats all those people well and respectful and whatnot. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I don't know about you, Adam.
No, I mean that's basically like the same thing. Like working with like because there's no such thing as like, oh, this was the best director I've worked for, or because everybody is kind of a different breed of who they
Yes.
are. That's kind of like what makes video game like role playing games so interesting, because there's so many variations of human beings according to Fallout lore and Mass Effect lore and stuff like that. So not every single person can work on the same wavelength as how Christine works or how Adam works, and even Adam and Christine working together sometimes aren't on the same wavelength. Christine, like, I just need to see things for the bigger picture. Christine just like goes for it and just tackles every single task. And I just somehow my brain just doesn't connect those two together. And it doesn't work that way. But when you're working with a director who understands A and B and also C, like if you have the patience in the and the empathy, that can go a really long way for being a director. Because when you have the patience, and when I say patience, I really mean time as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to understand how much time it takes for literally every single department. Hair and makeup department is not going to finish all of their shit in the same time that every other department is going to be done. So then we're going to be picture up and ready to go at the same exact time every other department is done. That's not how it works.
Right.
You kind of have to like go into an understanding that like the problems are going to happen, and it's whether or not how you respond to that to put out that fire, and also like understanding scheduling wise why you got to do what you got to do, instead of just like just saying, like you said, like, can I just have the prop now? And it's just like, well, art department is nowhere even close to being done.
Yeah.
And you want people already in hair and makeup by now so you can rehearse. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you gotta think about this,
You gotta
and
think about everybody's needs and understand
yeah,
why they need that time, to give them that time
and how
and
much
not,
time that takes too.
yes, and to respect the need for that time. I think the issue whenever different departments get upset and angry, and I know this happened on our set, is when another department feels like they're not being respected for the time that they need, yet maybe camera department feels like they're ready, then why isn't everybody else ready? Like that's a lack of respect for the art of the hair and makeup department. They need an hour, but maybe camera needs only 20 minutes, but that doesn't mean that their hour is any less important than that 20 minutes that the camera department needs.
Looks like you're taking a 15-minute break.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess,
So
yeah.
yeah, so it's that, I think when tempers flare and stuff, it's usually because of that. It's
Yeah.
when the departments feel like each other's departments are not taken as important, are not treated as importantly, because the time that they need is not being respected. And I think as an AD, that's the hardest job to juggle, is all these
Very
people's
hard.
needs and expectations, and how do you how do you time it so that they perfectly align together when you need it? So like, for example, if you know that hair and makeup is going to take an hour, how do I give them that hour of time yet be ready to shoot when camera only needs 20? Okay, maybe I need a pre-call.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I need a pre-call hair and makeup so that they start 30 minutes earlier. So by the time camera and everybody else is ready, we're all ready together, so we minimize that amount of wait time and stuff like that. So that's what ADing is about. It's that beauty of balancing everybody's needs and time.
And you don't have to be an AD in order to be a director either, but if you
No.
can understand that communication is literally everything when it comes to the production side of it.
Yeah.
We know that communication is everything with camera department and the other departments and all that stuff. But when it comes to production, that's like, these are the schedule makers, you know, and the heartbeat of the set. Like you got to feed it all the things that you got to feed it with in order for the schedule and everything else to just run smoothly the way it's supposed to be run. And in the instance for this set, it was like two ships passing each other in the night, and nobody was saying anything to each other at all. We just smiled and we just waved, you know, and that's all we did.
Hope that was enough to convey what we needed from each other.
Ship A didn't tell me that I'm going to run right into the iceberg, but I also didn't tell ship B that they're going to go into the dark abyss, you know, like everybody is already set up to fail. And if we just had that moment of pre-production and also we had no locations person. So imagine this, Christine, imagine parking G&E camera and also the passenger vans to load and transport crew and stuff like that. Imagine trying to park that on a main street in Dallas, and you're in front of this place, and this is a towaway zone. And if you think that there hasn't been already few cops that came by and said, hey, why are you guys parked here for more than 4 hours? I have to explain to them that, yeah, this is production and we're shooting something. And I guess
we fucked up.
and I guess no one mentioned to you that we're going to be here. And they're like, well, you're going to have to go. And when the law comes into play, there's nothing you can do, ladies and gentlemen. There's some people who think some productions and some people who are just shooting stuff, filmmakers, are above the law. They're not. The law applies to literally everybody. And when there's a police officer that says, get out, you gotta go. And it is what it is. And we had to park and move basically base camp around the block to a public parking structure where we paid an exuberant amount of money that we should not be paying whatsoever. But because of the sake of the law, we had to. But then here's a problem. Then you got about 75% of the crew who are just absolutely complaining that, and they have every right to say that, yeah, why do I have to carry C-stands and sandbags all the way down the block to then haul my ass all the way back? You know, like this is just like you're totally working against each other, and you have no control. That's the problem. That was like the biggest thing with this set, was that I thought I could have control and there was none. There's nothing I can do. Literally nothing I can do. And it taught me a very valuable lesson in that if there was something truly...
Be an AD.
Huh?
That's your lesson. You do not want to be an AD.
No.
It taught me a valuable lesson. Being an AD
never
sucks.
again.
I never want to be an AD.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it basically taught me that, like, you got to understand that a person can do only so much. And when something is just out of control, ladies and gentlemen, it is out of control. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's not your fault. You are literally doing the job you're supposed to do, and then some. I did even more. So because I did even more, felt like I shot myself in the foot, really, because then everybody looks at me like, oh, why didn't you just tell the cop that we're just going to stay here and it is what it is? It's like, well, A, it's a cop, and B, no, and C, shut up. We have to do what the cops says. Are you out of your mind? Or you want to get this production shut down?
Where, when you've done that every single day of your production life as an AD, that's when you start. And I don't know if you whether you are at that place where you see this now, you appreciate the crew who also have empathy, the crew and cast that may not understand your job, but are empathetic enough to not make your life harder. So that's when you realize why I always stress that I will take that my biggest pet peeve is complaining. and complainers.
Me too.
Because
Yes.
I'm here to try to give you a solution, and you may not like the solution, but I at least have a solution, and that's what it is. And like, it's not all about you. And so that's why my crew specifically, I try to pick people who don't complain, because usually the people who don't are the people who have been in those positions and have been there to understand what it feels like when you have no control, yet everybody's looking to you for the answers, and yet they may not like the answers. So complaining about it is not going to solve anything at all or make anybody's life easier, because that is the only solution that you have, and you just have to deal with it.
And nobody else is bringing anything to the table.
Exactly.
So you have to put on your big boy pants and start making some decisions.
Exactly. And so that's why I constantly say I cannot stand crew that complain. Like, there is a validity to it sometimes. Like, hey, okay, this is an unsafe situation. I'm going to speak my mind about it
to an extent.
It's going to put everybody to an extent. But there is a point where if the production is doing their best, and you can tell they're doing their best with what they have and the resources that they have, telling them all of your complaints and unhappiness and stuff like that is only going to make them not want to hire you again. So that's just like that. Yeah. If I were to give anybody a piece of advice, it is try to think about how it would feel like if you were in their same position. Now, if they're in that position and you realize that they could have controlled that situation in the first place, and they just, out of hindsight, like not being prepared, discussion. That's a different discussion. Yeah. But if you see that they've done everything they possibly can with what they have to get the best solution for everybody to be happy, and you still complaining, that is a problem. So like, I cannot stress that enough. And now that you've been in this position, Adam, I'm sure you totally understand. You will have your list of people that you're totally cool. We're cool. I'll work with you again. You didn't make my life harder. And then there's the other list of people who just don't give a shit about how you feel and are going to complain to the cows come out. And you're like, nope, never working with you again. That's how you distinguish. And those are the people that end up working a lot, and the people who do not. Is that
exactly?
And yeah, so I can go on and on about this. Yeah. So
no, because you're echoing exactly what I feel. You're echoing exactly how I feel, Christine. Because like, aside from who I met in the Texas crew here, awesome, rad. Even the other people, the Mexico crew, great, awesome dudes. At the end of the day, they're actually really cool people. It's just everything else that was in charge around it was sort of like, it's almost like they're on another planet, and Christine and me are like way over there. You know what I mean? Like, we're on completely separate planets at all times, and that's fine. There are some people who are just completely checked out of the set, and that's great. That's awesome. Some people are just like, yeah, you know what? I'm just here for the paycheck. But for the fact that these are the leaders of the set who are already pre-existing, that they just want to get this over with in this set, just proves to the set in the long run how it's going to be. So if you already determine your feelings before you even step foot in your first day, you really, as a leader and as a director, or if you're a producer, you have it's almost like you're the entertainer of the party. You're the head of the party. You're the one who's going to be driving this energy.
Yeah. And if you don't give a shit, then that determines the entire feeling of the entire set.
Exactly. So let the first AD do their job. Let every other department do their job. But what you do is just be patient and well aware of the fact that what is happening is going to require time. So you complaining and whining and wondering, why is it taking so long? These days are way too long, when you have absolutely no other thing to bring up to like to offer to the table. You should understand where your production and where your entire set is going to go. You should already know that, because if you have that much disregard for what you are doing to your crew, then you probably deserve to have you probably deserve everything that is going to be the result of the set.
Yeah.
Period. You know, and that goes for anybody else who wants to be a director and have absolutely no experience in the industry. And I still don't, you guys. I'm still learning everything. But this is what we're all still learning. But this is what I gathered so far, and it's truly alarming, as opposed to the other sets that I've worked on that was actually like really good. Like Christina and I worked on a set she was first AD for, and I was a van driver for, and I was a PA as well, but I was also a van driver. And that set felt like a cakewalk compared to this set. It was like I almost kind of missed that set in a way. Like in a way. I don't really, but in a way I'm just like, oh, you know, those were the better days when I drove a 10-passenger van, but I'm driving a 15-passenger van and it feels like I'm driving a school bus. And it is a completely different world. I'm like, what's the difference between a 10-passenger van and a 15-passenger van? And I learned that lesson, ladies and gentlemen, and that answer is a lot. There is a lot different with a 15-passenger van. It feels like driving a big rig truck.
Of kids. Yes.
Of kids. Literally,
you're kids. Yes.
Christine, I was hauling kids every day on this set. These people were toddlers, some of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel. It's my kids. Yeah, my kids. I'm a camp counselor right now. Yes, no, it's
first one there, last one leave. Yeah.
Peyton's laughing. I know she knows what I'm talking about.
She knows what we're both talking about.
What we're both talking about. But
yeah.
It's complaining. I just can't. But why I love the set that I was just on, which was the Song King set for Shaky Shivers as the film, is that yes, there will come days when we're all stressed out and we will be snappy at each other and everything.
Oh, always.
But we, at the end, can still go and have a beer or whatever and say, hey, man, I'm sorry that I was like that.
And we just get a hug and we just know we don't mean it that way. Yeah.
And there's no ego. Where the problem comes is the ego, right? Yeah. When people have that ego and they're not able to separate the ego from everything else, that's when like you have bad sets. When people think it's all about that, that's when you have a bad set. Now on this set, nobody thought that. You know, it would be days like this was the nicest G&E team, one of the nicest G&E teams I've been on, and they had some hard days, but they were quick to, if Art needed help, they could go and help them, even though they've got their own shit they got to deal with, right? They never complained. One day Theo, our key gaffer, he's a vegetarian and all the vegetarian meals got taken away, and he could have been a dick about it, but he wasn't. He was understanding, and he was like, hey, like that sucks, please don't do that again, but like I get it, I'm sorry, like I get it,
right?
Like that's awesome that he was able to do that. And I think that's just hard for jaded people in this industry where it's hard. You work really, really long hours, and sometimes you get treated like shit, and sometimes you just want to be angry and not be a good crew member.
Kirk says, I appreciate what y'all are sharing. I have my insecurities and my lack of experience, but this has been helpful to encourage me and others to persevere. Absolutely, Kirk. I mean,
we all have our insecurities. I still have insecurities.
I have so many insecurities. It's because there's some people who can absolutely understand and empathize with other departments, but then there's just some people, and it's nothing against them. They just don't have that enough awareness or experience with the other departments, who have no experience with any of them whatsoever. Of course, I've worked with directors and producers that have absolutely no idea what it takes to light and what it takes to be a hair and makeup, what it takes to be in costume, what it
Yeah.
takes to be an art department. Oh my gosh, art department. It is hard. And it's so crazy how many sets I've been on where people just completely disregard not just the art department, other departments as well. But there's been a few sets where they just sort of disregard the art department because they're just like, I mean, what do? They just set dress and that's it. It's like, no, we also have to be in the loop of everything else. We have no idea what the talent's holding, whether or not it's props, everything. We have to predetermine literally everything. And little by little, if you start to disregard and somewhat disrespect other departments, that's also going to trickle down. And people, and also a lot of these people think these human beings can't remember. That's the other hilarious part.
Yeah.
I want to make the best impression at all times. I want to make sure that everybody who I'm friends with or who I am with always knows that I'm just going to be there for them. And I will always want to transmit that at all times. But it's crazy when you are someone who is complaining and terrible and don't want to work and yell at other departments for no reason. Do you think those people don't remember who these directors are? Easily, they're going to be like, hey, do you recommend this director for this, or do you recommend working with this director? It's like, no way, homie. Like, turn the other cheek, go the other way. It's not worth the cash. Sometimes there's gigs that are just not worth the cash. Doesn't matter if it's the worst director, the cash sometimes just is not worth it.
Exactly.
It's not worth it.
I'm going to jump in onto that. People will always remember the way you made them feel. It doesn't matter what your end product is or like what people will always remember the way you feel. And maybe in this set, I can't do anything about it, but you sure bet if somebody asks me whether or not who to recommend, you're not going to be on the list,
No way.
And that's how I know. And so in any future list ever, and so, if I remember all the people who made my life hard on set, and I remember all the people who had my back, and those people who had my back, like I will recommend and I will go to, I will fight for those people to be on set. And everybody else, I'll be like, hell no. And it's happened multiple times where people have been like, hey, I want to hire this person. I'm like, hell no. And that person wasn't on set because I remember the day they made my life hell, and it's nothing personal. It's the fact is that this is a high stress job, and we want to work with people that make us feel good and amplify how we as a team put together, and you want people who are responsible, who at the end you enjoy your job and do the best that you can together as a team. It's not about one single department. It's about every single department. And that's the part that I feel separates the good crew, the good cast from the bad crew, the bad cast, is people who only think about their department, nobody else. And it shouldn't be that way. Filmmaking is compromise, and filmmaking is about teamwork. And if you can't think in that mindset, you're not going to go very far.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort. And mic drop. It should be like that. I mean, how long have we an hour and a half? Is that right?
I think we gotta take it for a landing.
Yeah, we got you an extra long episode. Well, it's just to make up for the last 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and we had a lot to say. But I guess Christine is right. We should probably take this bad boy in for a landing. Christine, was there anything else you want to address on the Erzulie side?
No, we are about to submit our cut to
Sundance.
For tomorrow is the deadline, the regular deadline, September 6th. Very excited about that. Excited about the team very appreciative of the team that's been able to make this happen. It's been like, I've been editing this while I'm ADing. Like it's been a whole thing. Carla will come back and I'm there at my thing editing and like clips and all that stuff. But I'm only able to do this because I have an incredible post team, an incredible production team and everything. And like a thank you to our investors who are, Marshall came in to help us with posts, and Sea Shanty, Moorland Productions, and T2V Films. Like making our dreams come true. And yeah, just be on the lookout for it. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of our team. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm going to Virginia and you're on some other set. So yeah, tune in next week. And who knows, Sung K is coming on the podcast.
I was going to ask.
He says he has to wrap his brain around post-production. I totally get it. So once he's ready, we're going to bring him on. And it's gonna be magical because he's awesome. So.
And he has a whole slew of experience, and it'll be our most famous person on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Most famous person I've ever worked with, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think that should be your MO now. You should just only work with famous people so we can get them on the podcast.
On the podcast.
Please. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us. That we are out of podcasts and out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate the comments. Thank you for the interactivity on Instagram, Facebook. We love you. I haven't been checking in and I'm sorry. We just been getting heavy handed into this discussion. I didn't have time to look at any comments and there's none.
We appreciate it.
So,
we love it when you guys ask questions and
we love it
like that, because this is what Reelisms is about. It's about for all the people who are in this industry that need time to vent or want perspective on things. Like, we can't say that our perspective is the best or anything, but it is a perspective that maybe might help you in your journey to being the best filmmaker that you want to be.
Exactly. And with that being said, get on getrealisms.com, pick up your book, pick up your poster, erzulifilm.com for all the previous Erzulie episodes. We talk about everything leading up to the production and then after production and everything else in post and everything else in pre, if you want to go all the way back, all the way to the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Facebook. We're going to go now.
Peace.